Hey, yo.
If I can be serious for a minute.
Oh, yeah. Acknowledge me.
What is up, Marks Mafia? Welcome back. Of course, this is Primo from the pod, back with another episode of Cheap Pops with Primo. We're back and we are in 2026 now. I just want to thank everybody for a successful 2025. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, of course, this podcast is presented by none other than the flagship Sit Down Marks podcast. And we had a great year. The Sit Down Marks podcast did. 2025 was amazing. Thank you all for listening. The downloads, the listeners, you know, the followings on social media that we have now, the spread we're getting. We touched 108 countries. I couldn't be happier about that. So thank you to each and every one of you for a successful 2025. I can't wait to see what 2026 has in store for us. And thanks for coming along this ride as we continue to grow. And I'm especially talking to you right there, listening to me right now, talk about this episode of Cheap Pops with Primo, presented by the Sit Down Marks podcast. Now, let's talk about what else we have in January. Of course, if you guys haven't been paying attention to the Sit Down Marks podcast and all of our other ventures, you can go check out DB's Territory Treasures. He talks about classic wrestlers, personal anecdotal stories about, you know, these wrestlers and what he thinks about, and you know, it's great. They're all standalone episodes. You should all give each and every one of those a listen. I believe the last one is still up as of the last month's episode. I mean, you could definitely go still listen to it. You listen to the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that as well. So anyway, but coming up this month, we do have another full-length episode coming January 28th. And that is going to be our pre-Rumble picks, which is one of my favorite times of year. As everybody knows, I love the Royal Rumble. It's my favorite pay-per-view. I can't wait till we get on the mic and talk about that one. But while you're waiting and while you're not listening to the Cheap Pops episode, you can always go back. We just recorded on January 14th. We recorded episode 180. Dylan and DB went deep into top USA indie promotions. So give that a listen as well. Now let's talk about, well, what we're going to talk about today on Cheap Pops with Primo. So what is a core memory? Core memories are something that stick with you, stick out in your, you know, your memory as far as a moment in time in your life that caused you some kind of emotional response. It was a life-changing event. It was something that maybe changed the course of your life or changed how you viewed something in your life. So core memories are important, as they happen a lot when you're a kid. They happen a lot as you are in early adulthood. And even now as an adult with kids of my own and a wife, core memories are made all the time now that I have a family. So specifically today, I want to talk about core memories in wrestling. Now, these aren't going to be life-changing, like I just said, but, you know, they definitely had an impact on my wrestling fandom, and they are matches that, if you ask me about them, I still talk about them to this day. One of these matches I've talked about, I think, several times on the podcast. And another one of them I've mentioned multiple times as well. So I'm going to talk about 3 different matches, all that are core wrestling memories for me that had big impacts on my wrestling fandom. Let's begin. First, we have Harlem Heat versus Nasty Boys in a Texas Tornado Falls Count Anywhere match from WCW Uncensored 1995. Real quick, peeling behind the curtain here for me, this particular pay-per-view, WCW Uncensored 95, it's known for that King of the Road match with Dustin Rhodes and Blacktop Bully. It It has a bunch of great moments in it. This one with the tag team match, Falls Count Anywhere, Texas Tornado match, happens to be my favorite. This particular pay-per-view was one of my first pay-per-views that I actually owned on VHS. I don't remember where I got it, how it came to be in my possession. For all I know, my mom could have found it at a garage sale, because we used to go to garage sales when I was a kid, and she might have picked it up for me, but it was from 1995. I'm sure I saw this a few years later. But I love this match, and this match was great. It was hard hitting. Not good Lord. The Nasty Boys were beating the snot out of the Harlem Heat. It was funny. It was so funny. And towards the end there, it was extremely chaotic. So if you've never seen this match, they come in, of course, it's Texas Tornado match, so everybody's allowed to fight at once. You have Sister Sherry there. You have Bobby the Brain Heenan on commentary, which for this match was he's always gold, but he was making me laugh the entire match. But as they get more into the Falls Count Anywhere part of this match, they get to they wrestle towards the stage area, where just happens to be like a concession stand, right, like left stage area, and this is where the chaotic part comes in. Mustard everywhere, drinks, slushies everywhere, cotton candy everywhere. They're slipping all over the concrete, falling on the concrete. It's actually hilarious. This match, I don't know why, but as a kid, I loved it. It's still hilarious to this day. But as a kid, this is the match that brought my attention to Harlem Heat, and it made me forever a Booker T fan. And I followed Booker T from this point on, when I first saw this match, up until, the end of his career. So that's the reason this match in particular is one of my wrestling core memories. I can always call back on it. I can remember where I got the footage from that first VHS tape, and it was just great. And like I said, it was completely random how I got the tape. I don't even remember how it came to be that I ended up owning this, but it was great. Moving on to my second wrestling core memory, and this is the one I was talking about that I've mentioned several times. I've mentioned it on the main, the flagship episodes, whether it was my top rivalries, my top favorite wrestlers, any of that stuff. If anybody knows me, they know that HBK is one of my favorite wrestlers ever. And this match is, of course, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels in the unsanctioned match from SummerSlam 2002. So, a little backstory here for me to make it a core memory. Now, of course, we're all impressionable at a certain age, and this is 2002, so I was 13 years old. So they had the big storyline here. They had the best friend betrayal. That was big, and there was Shawn coming back from, being forced retired from injury. No one knew if his back was going to hold up. Who attacked Shawn Michaels? It ended up being Triple H after they did the old, enhance on the CCTV. It was a great storyline, at least for 13-year-old Primo. And I've always loved it. This is one of my favorite rivalries. It ended up being one of my favorite rivalries. It's best friends. They ended up hating each other for a couple years before they reunited DX in 2006. But this match, it ended up reigniting Shawn Michaels' career. It allowed him to have that second run that ended up being just as historic as the first run. And some will argue the second run's better than the first run. The first run's better than the second run. He did historic things in both. And it's crazy because they're obviously the same guy, but it's almost like two separate you know, guys in the ring as far as the 2000s Shawn versus the 90s Shawn. I mean, he was still the showstopper, HBK, all that. Don't get me wrong, but it's crazy how awesome he was and how much he still had it when he came back. And you can just tell in this match how it's his first match back, and as the match goes on, he gained more and more confidence, and the crowd's really behind him, and he ends up beating Triple H. And at the end, of course, Triple H hits him in the back with a sledgehammer. And it shows how despicable Triple H was, which if you go back to my other Cheap Pops episode of wrestlers I used to hate that ended up loving, Triple H was that guy. So my second wrestling core memory, 13-year-old Primo, loved Triple H versus Shawn Michaels unsanctioned match to SummerSlam 2002. So now we've come to the third match. The third match, I didn't really have the footage of, like I had the first and the second one. Something I didn't mention about the second one is I did not see that one live. I saw the build-up live, but back then, and when I was 13 or whatever, I didn't get pay-per-views. Like, we didn't really have the money to be buying me pay-per-views. I think they were like $55 at the time. So, you know, my mom didn't really have the money to buy me pay-per-views every single time one came out. So what we would do is I'd wait like, I don't know, a couple weeks to a month, and then we'd go to the video rental store and I'd get the DVD. So this is probably how I watched SummerSlam 2002, was on DVD. And of course, the rest of that card is, you got Rock versus Brock and stuff like that too. But Triple H versus Shawn Michaels is the one that I love. Anyway, moving on to the third one. Like I said, I never owned the footage for this one because by the time this one came out, I was grown and I could afford pay-per-views. But for this particular one, 2008, I didn't have to buy pay-per-views because I was in the military. I was stationed in Greenland at the time. 2008, I would have been 18 going on 19, and we had this thing overseas in the military called AFN, which is the Armed Forces Network. They play the pay-per-views on there for just, for free. So I got to watch that during that time. I don't remember if it was live because there was a time difference. I was stationed in Greenland, so there may have been time difference. But this match is a triple threat match for the WWE Championship at Armageddon 2008 between Jeff Hardy, Triple H, and Edge. The reason it is one of my core wrestling memories is because Jeff Hardy, at the time and before that, was always my number one guy. I was always, you guys know me. DB used to announce that I was from the land of the extreme on the podcast. I've always loved the Hardy Boys. They were my favorite tag when I was a kid. Jeff Hardy was my number one guy. And the payoff to finally see Jeff get that WWE Championship had me stoked as he was there at the end when he won, when he slammed the chair on the ground. It was great. You had everything. You had Triple H, Edge, Jeff Hardy, 2008. They all had awesome entrance music. Jeff Hardy coming out with a pyro and no more words. He wins. He, of course, all the way at the end when he does win, his after celebration where he climbs on top of the Armageddon set that they have there on the stage. That's awesome. Total thing that Jeff Hardy would do, right? So, and I loved it because it was, like I said, at the time I was 2008, so I was probably following Jeff Hardy since, 98, really. And so for 10 years, Jeff Hardy was my favorite wrestler there, and he still is to this day. But at that time, my fandom for him was way bigger. And I was so happy to finally see Jeff get his first WWE Championship. But those are three of my wrestling core memories. There are more. There are other ones out there, like small ones, not so much matches. Like I distinctly remember Kane taking off his mask, or I remember, when my mom was cleaning a hotel room and I walked into another hotel room and happened to see DX on the screen, and that locked me in right then and there. But you guys listening to this right now, I'm sure you have core memories of your own. So if you guys want to tell us what your core memories are, drop them down below. You can comment on Spotify. You can reach out to us on social media. You can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, any of that. And tell us what your wrestling core memories are. Because obviously everybody's different. These 3 are mine. Hey, maybe some of you have some of the same ones. Who knows? But I appreciate you guys listening to this episode of Cheap Pops with Primo. Once again, you can always tune in to episodes of DB's Territory Treasures. They're standalone episodes. Go back, listen to them, listen to all of them. You could always go back and listen to our other ventures like Sit Down Marks presenting Dreamwave Prelude. We just dropped volume 6. If you need more information about that, follow Sit Down Marks on all social medias and you will learn all about it. Of course, you can go back and listen to our most recent flagship episode about indie promotions, and up on the end of January, we have our pre-Rumble pod. So check any of that out. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for listening wherever you're at, whether you're in your car, whether you're in your home. I appreciate you guys just taking the time out of your day for this 17 to 20 minutes here. And I appreciate all of you listening. Thank you once again for 2025. We look forward to 2026. And as DB always says, spread the good word of wrestling.